All right, so you're ready to move beyond just writing simple prompts. You want to build AI agents that are actually intelligent, that can think for themselves and get things done. Well, you've come to the right place. Today, we're diving deep into what I think is the real secret sauce, context engineering.
And this, right here, is the absolute truth. The real magic of a powerful AI agent isn't in one single clever prompt. No way. It's in the entire world of information you build around it, the context. Think of it like this. Context is the AI's complete mission briefing. It's got the instructions, sure, but it's also the memory, the tools it can use, and the data it needs to check. This is what turns a basic chatbot into a seriously capable digital teammate. Okay, so how do we get this right? Let's break it down. We're going to walk through 5 core principles. You can think of these as the absolute bedrock for building any effective AI agent. Now look, these 5 things aren't just a checklist you tick off. They're all connected, kind of like a life cycle. We start with structure, because that's the foundation for how the AI even understands what to do. Then we make sure we're comprehensive so it doesn't break when something weird happens. We check all that with a ton of testing, which feeds into a constant loop of iterating and monitoring. And wrapping around the whole thing, that's where we put in guardrails for safety. If you get this flow down, you're going to unlock your agent's real potential. So let's kick things off with structure. Just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got this wall of text. I mean, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. It's a gamble. But on the right, total clarity. So why is this so much better? Well, you've got to remember that these models were trained on tons of structured stuff from the internet. So when you use things like XML tags or Markdown, you're basically speaking their language. It's like giving them a crystal clear map instead of vague directions. And that means you get behavior you can actually predict and rely on. But hey, a perfect structure is only half the story. You've also got to be comprehensive. And this is where you kind of have to think like a pessimist to get a good outcome. You have to ask yourself, what's the craziest thing a user could type in? Or what happens if this API I'm relying on just dies? You need to design for those failures before they happen. Thinking through all the potential scenarios is absolutely key to building an agent that doesn't just fall apart under pressure. And that leads us perfectly to this next point. You have to test, and then test some more. It's one thing to brainstorm what could go wrong, but it's another thing entirely to see what does go wrong out in the real world. Because trust me, real users will always find ways to break your agent that you never even thought of. That's why just hammering on those weird edge cases isn't just a good idea. It's completely non-negotiable. All that testing brings us to a really important realization. When you launch your agent, you're not done. You're just getting started. This is where the real magic happens. You have to watch how it's being used, get feedback, and then pour all that learning back into refining your context. The best agents are the ones that evolve. They're not just built once and then left alone to rust. And finally, let's talk about the thing that protects everything we've just built: security. When you're giving an agent the power to actually do things, you absolutely have to put strong guardrails in place. I'm talking about things like input validation so no one can sneak in malicious commands, and access control so it only does what it's supposed to. Security can't be an afterthought. It has to be baked in from day one. So, we've got the principles down. That's the what. Now, let's talk about the how. How do you actually put all this stuff into practice? Let's open up the toolkit and look at some of the best resources and tools out there that can help you get the job done. First up, you have got to check out the Cognition blog. It is an awesome resource, especially if you're thinking about building systems where you have multiple agents working together. They get into some really cool advanced stuff, like how agents can share context to collaborate, and how they make implicit decisions. That basically means the agent can figure out the right next move without you spelling it out every single time. It's how you build truly autonomous systems. Next, you've got the LangChain framework guide. I like to think of this as the practical, hands-on playbook. It gets into the real nuts and bolts, like how to write context that works, and, this is a big one, how to select only the most relevant data for a task. That's the whole idea behind patterns like RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's also got great tips on compressing information and keeping workflows separate. It's just a powerhouse for the day-to-day grind. So what do you actually build with? Well, you've got options, and it really depends on what you're trying to do. If you need to spin something up fast or just prototype an idea, no-code tools like Natrat are fantastic. But if you're a developer who needs that fine-grained control, you're going to want to look at code-based options like the OpenAI Agents SDK or LangChain. And the best part is that a well-designed context is portable. The principles we talked about work pretty much everywhere. So look, when you bring all of this together, the principles, the resources, the right tools, you're doing more than just building another agent. You're actually architecting intelligence. You're creating a system that isn't just reacting to things, but is reliable, scalable, and genuinely smart. And that's really the big takeaway. When you get really good at this art and science of context engineering, you give your agents the power to think smarter, act more reliably, and scale without breaking a sweat. Honestly, I think this is the skill that's going to define the next wave of AI development. So, the only question left is, what are you going to build first? If you want to keep going deeper on this stuff, make sure to subscribe. We've got a lot more to cover. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.